Welcome to the Embody Me podcast. I'm your host, Amber Fortier, a digital entrepreneur, embodiment coach, and manifestation expert. My mission is to help success-driven, ambitious women stand in their power, embody their inner CEO, and manifest the successful business of their dreams. This podcast provides you with thought-provoking conversation, manifestation techniques, and wellness tips to turn your spiritual practices into a lifestyle, discover your inner rich babe, and massively transform your business, brand presence, and bank account. Let's effortlessly manifest opportunities and embody the rich, the confident, and the wildly successful version of yourself. Press play to dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in again to the Embody Me podcast. I am so excited today because I have an amazing guest here. Hello, Tasneem. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm very well, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yes, thank you for tuning in all the way from London. I know you're like a good 9 hours time difference from me, so it's just so amazing to have the opportunity to connect with you. I'm so grateful.
Oh, likewise. It's amazing how this post-pandemic world has made the world a lot more smaller than it already was.
Yes, it really has. And it gives us such an incredible opportunity to connect with so many more people, to really just expand our horizons. So there are definitely some amazing things that came out of this pandemic. And I'm really excited for our topic today because we're going to be talking about leadership in regards to being an introvert. And I know for a lot of us out there who are introverts, who are trying to start a business or run a business or do something amazing in your life, it can be challenging. So Tasneem here is going to give us lots of tips and insights. And I think a really great place to start off is let's just talk about what leadership is and how that pertains to entrepreneurship.
Wow, fantastic question to begin with. So leadership, what a fantastic question. And let me give you my view of what leadership is and where I focus on. So leadership to me is all about mindset. Well, it starts with mindset. Let's put it that way. Leadership is about having a vision about yourself and the world around you and how you want to take it forward. So I know it seems really broad, but I'm going to break it down for you. Whenever we talk about leadership, the first thing that people think about is whether it pertains to corporate world or this big fancy title or a big position. But in my mind, leadership is about self-leadership. That's where actually everything starts from. And it's about having a vision, being strategic, being very solution-oriented, and everything is underpinned by this need to be in service. So when you think about yourself as being in service of, whether it's the people that you lead, whether it's your clients, whether it's the business that you're running, it's all about being in that servant leadership that allows you to almost expand your horizon and act and behave in a way that benefits the wider community around you. That's leadership for me.
Wow. I love that so much because you're so right. When we often think about leaderships, we think of, the CEO of Coca-Cola or, these really big titles, but we are actually all the leaders of our own life. And it's up to us to really hold that vision and to make the steps and make the plan and take the actions to really get what we want in our life. And I think that's just such an amazing definition and a great way to think about leadership, because when we think of it that way, we're really giving ourselves the accountability. We're really putting ourselves in charge of our actions and of our results. And when we do that, we are able to just hold ourselves accountable. And that is just, in my opinion, that has been such a game changer for me in my own journey, is when I stopped blaming other people, when I stopped saying it's the government, it's my family, it's X, Y, and Z. And when you start to take that control back and say, okay, what's happening in my life is because of me, then you can really start to take the power back and start to make the changes and take the steps to really live the life that you want. So thank you so much for that definition. And when it comes to leadership as an introvert, what kind of challenges can arise from that? And what is your experience with that?
I think that the person who has the loudest voice or who's, making the most noise, whether it's dancing on TikTok or putting up a great show in a social setting, the person who can attract the most visibility, who can make the most noise, comes across as the loudest, tends to generally get the most attention. That is the biggest challenge that introverts face in this world. It's the ability to be their authentic self and be accepted for who they are. Because we see louder noises around us, it's people who are quieter, people who prefer smaller gatherings and get their energy from interacting with, one or two people or a smaller crowd, are not seen as attractive in people's minds as they are. And I don't think that being an extrovert is a bad thing. I think it just comes naturally to them. That's the energy, that they have and they bring to the world. And it's fantastic. And actually, if you ask a lot of introverts, secretly, they'll say, oh, I wish I could be like that, but I cannot be that. And the beauty of that is that as an introvert, you recognize who you are, you know what your strengths are, but because you're not as loud, because you're not able to enter a room and basically garner that level of energy that an extrovert would, you can face challenges, whether it's your business and you're trying to attract attention, where people, it's a cluttered world out there, and you have to find ways where you're making your business known and you're trying to promote yourself, or whether it's a corporate world where you're trying to rise through the ranks and get noticed and get that visibility. The challenges remain the same. Or in your personal life, where, if you're like, I don't know, a group of 10 odd people, and, if you're extroverts and if you're introverts, you know how the conversation tends to go or who tends to take the lead. And therefore, the challenges are generally around, getting your voice heard, being known for something more than the quiet one or the shy one, really being heard when you speak. And overall, I label all of that as building a leadership presence and visibility that generally introverts will struggle with.
I'm personally not an introvert, but my husband is. And I can really see, all the things that you mentioned right now about, struggling in a big group and, not always having your voice heard. And those are things that he at times struggles with as well. So for our introverts out there, what kind of tips can you give them in order to, take on that leadership presence, whether that's in their life, their job, or their business?
Great question. All right. So I suppose I'll reference the kind of work that I do with my clients, and I'll take examples from there. When you're an introvert and you're trying to either grow your business or you're trying to succeed and, just grow in your jobs, and you get feedback such as more people need to know you, you need to network, you need to build your brand presence. Here are some of the things that you can put in place, whether it's to grow your career or you're trying to build your business. So they apply no matter, which situation you are in. As an introvert, you need to capitalize on what your strengths are. And the way you do it is it begins with self-awareness. If you're well aware of who you are and what your strengths are, forget about what you're not good at, right? You're not good at entering a room and saying, hey, everyone, I'm here, right? So what are you good at? You're good at one-on-one conversations. Now, let's break that down further. If you're good at one-on-one conversations or smaller group conversations, how can you leverage that to build your network? You can reach out to other entrepreneurs, you can reach out to your ideal clients and have those in-depth conversations. Because as introverts, we're great at having those kind of conversations. And through conversations, we're able to build those relationships. You're actually leaving a deeper impact than just a 5-minute conversation. And even if it's a 5-minute conversation, because there is true meaning behind it and it's not just small talk, you're leaving a impact and therefore building a leadership presence. So it's through one-on-one conversations or small groups. Another way to do it is because spontaneity in networking is a rather difficult thing to carry out for an introvert. How about you start planning things? For example, if you are to go to an event, right? why don't you do some research up front, find out who's going to be there, who you would like to connect, and how about send them some sort of connection request or email or message or whatever that works in advance saying, hey, we both are attending this event. I would love to chat with you on so and so. Let's grab a drink while we're there. And now what has happened is you've sort of almost created this easy pathway for yourself to network with somebody, to connect with somebody, build that relationship, and you've set an expectation where you're comfortable. And you also can prepare upfront of what you're going to talk about, how you're going to approach this, and really help yourself ease into that situation rather than go freestyle and think and hope that it's going to work out and go against the grain and tell yourself, I'm going to do it, and then just hating that it didn't work out. So that's another thing that you can do. I would say probably another way to build visibility is through engagement. So introverts hate small talk. And generally, they just don't see any point of it. For the longest time, I just felt like, why exactly would I talk to a stranger when I'm sitting in an airplane? I mean, I'm never going to see you. What's the point? You do your thing, I'm going to do mine, right? And it took me a long time to understand that that's my preference as an introvert, because that's just how I operate. It's not about having a purpose, but it's about knowing whether there's some meaning behind it. And as introverts, we do look for more meaning than just having a short conversation with a stranger and moving on. What you can do is that because our brains work in a way where we're looking to build that connection, you can look for people of similar interest, find groups based on activities, events that cater to your interest, which will actually provide a comfortable environment for yourself, such that when you're in it, it's much easier for you to have those conversations. The one thing which is absolutely key for introverts to remember is that while you may not come across in a big splashy way and make a big impact, you can build a very strong, deep network for yourself that will actually support you in growing your business, growing your career, one person at a time, one conversation at a time.
I love that. And what I'm really hearing from this is just being intentional and using your strengths. Because as you said, instead of, planning to go to a networking event and hoping that, okay, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to rock it, I'm going to talk to all these people. And then you get there and you freeze up and you're like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. You can think ahead. You can plan. Okay, I know this is how I am. And instead of feeling bad or instead of trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, let me play into my strengths. Let me use these as gifts and say, okay, this is what I'm best at. So how can I be the best at what I'm best at already? So I am absolutely loving these tips.
Brilliant. You're so bang on. I love the way how you succinctly summarize it.
Thank you so much. So for our introverts out there, I would love to hear about your personal experience of, as you started to play into your strengths and as you started to really realize what your gifts are and hone into those gifts and just have this full radical self-acceptance of yourself as an introvert. How has that impacted your business and your career? I would love to hear about your own personal journey.
So I always knew I'm an introvert, but I think I also wanted to enjoy life. I didn't want to just be myself. I really enjoy my own company and, having that downtime, but I also enjoy being around people. And it took me a while to really understand who I am, what my personality type is. And I did a lot of work on myself as part of personal development to understand what are my strengths, what am I good at, what comes naturally for me, what's in flow for me. And that's all as I was building my career in the corporate world. And there came a point when I was a senior manager and I was due for, my next step was a director. And the feedback that I got was not enough people know you. And you need to go out there and network within the organization, but out in the industry as well. And I remember leaving that meeting feeling so despondent. I was like, oh my gosh, do you know how hard it is for me to even talk to the person who's just sitting 2 cubicles away? Because now I have to come up with a scenario to speak to them and build my network, build, who I am as a person. And so I think that was a real turning point for me, because what I did was that I took a step back and I thought, all right, I want to grow. I want to go in leadership positions, but I want to do it in a way that feels authentic for myself. I am not going to change myself just so I can continue to succeed. And thing about corporate world is that what got you here won't get you there. So there comes a point when, what you're doing, the actual work is not enough. Now, when you're looking at leadership positions, it's a complete mindset shift in terms of how you lead, what you do, how you're going to execute, support your people, all of that. And therefore, I started to realize that my strengths were that I'm confident to go and present. I mean, not that I'm not nervous, but I'm happy to go and present in large crowds. I'm good at planning, so I can book meetings. So something that I just said about networking at events and all of that, right? I mean, if I go to a conference, there are chances that half the time I'm in the washroom or getting a drink. I do find it really hard. But if I plan in advance of knowing who's going to be there and, hey, let's grab a drink, now I have somebody to talk to and things become easier. So that, to build my sort of presence and network in the industry, that really worked. Internally at work, what I started doing was having one-on-one quick coffee meetings that, hey, I'm going for a coffee. We haven't caught up in a while. And as you walk together from your desk, well, in the pre-pandemic world, from your desk to the coffee shop, there's stuff that comes up. And what happens is when I started interacting with people in a way that felt authentic to me, my conversation started flowing easier as well, because I wasn't out there building connections because somebody asked me to do that. What I'm doing is I'm picking people that I really do want to get to know, I do want to interact with. And because I'm interested, I come across as my authentic self and they see me and we build deeper connections. And I think that as soon as I started doing more aware of what comes in flow for me, what's authentic to me, and I started applying all of that, I quickly saw how that started translating into people getting to know me in different aspects of work, whether it's my immediate team or broader team, wider, business. I love interacting in employee resource groups and really giving back. So I started interacting in that and doing meaningful work. So that's, again, was another way for me to build my brand and for more people to get to know me. So really, it was all about how do I show up as my authentic self, to do what feels right for me, what I'm good at, what feels fun for me, and starting applying that. And I think that has served me really well, such that I continue to succeed in leadership positions. And when I decided to get trained as a coach and launch my own business, it just felt so natural for me to focus on this because I know how many people struggle with this. And it's my absolute passion to support, aspiring leaders to really step into their authentic self, own who they are, not worry about changing themselves, and then going and making a mark on the world.
I really resonate with your story because, as you said, you went into that meeting and afterwards you felt so disappointed. Like, okay, I know I have it in me to be a leader. I know that I could do this role, but nobody knows me. I need to put myself out there, but that's so challenging. And a lot of people could have saw that and said, you know what? Maybe that new leadership role is not for me. Maybe I should just stay where I'm at and not even try to progress further. But instead of having that mindset, you said, okay, what is going to work for me? How do I operate? And how can I make the way I operate work for me and be as authentic as I can? Which is why you were able to make those one-on-one connections. You weren't trying to be someone you're not. You weren't trying to say, okay, I got to get a big, team meeting with everyone and let's have, a big party or anything. You just said, okay, I really enjoy one-on-one meetings. So let's do more of that. Let's lean into my strengths. Let's lean into my authenticity even more. And because of that, that really leaded you onto your path of finding your purpose and starting your own coaching practice and really helping others who have gone through the same things. And that's what I always tell my clients who are aspiring to be a coach, especially when they're going through their hard times in their life, is you need to go through this and you need to get through to the other side in order to help the people that you want to serve have the same type of transformation. And it's really clear that you have went through it. You've climbed the corporate ladder. You've been in these situations where you were uncomfortable. And when your introverted side might have held you back from making those connections, and you found a way that really works for you, where you're really able to help serve others. So I just so enamored and so admiring your story.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I agree. I think that what you talk about, how, you have to sort of go through that hardship, go through that transformation, come out on the other side. And it's only when you look back, you can connect the dots and you feel like everything that you went through was preparing you for the moment that you are in right now. And
Yes.
it's only then you really realize that, yes, it's exactly where I want to be. I know exactly what my purpose is and how I'm going to sort of support other people, right? It's being in service of other people, something so much bigger than you. Something that you and I talked about just a little bit before we jumped on this. It's about spirituality, right? For me, it's about existential, right? It's almost existential, that what are we leaving behind in this world? If I can help transform one life at a time, right? Live a little bit more truer to themselves so they feel at peace, more satisfied, and they thrive in their element. That's a life well lived.
Yes. And that's the thing. Even by helping one person, there is a huge ripple effect that happens when you do that, because you might help one person, right? But they're showing up for their companies and their businesses in a better way, that they're able to support their employees and they're able to be a good example for their employees. And when their employees go home from work, they're not stressed out and angry because they hate their job, they hate their boss. It really is such a ripple effect that really just transcends so many people. And I think it's so important for us to really do this work and really be of service and really focus on how we can serve, because so often as an entrepreneur, it's really easy to get sucked into, I want to make more money. I want to be successful. It can be easy to fall into that, me type of mindset, which, I really feel the corporate world kind of sets us up for, and when you really take a step back and when you really think, okay, of course, I need money to survive. I need food on the table and all those things, but I am really here to serve. I'm really here to help people. I'm really here to change lives. That just gives you a whole different energy, a whole different level of motivation, a whole different level of purpose that, when you're going through the hardest of the hard times, that it's for a reason. It's not just because you want to be rich. It's not just because you want designer bags. It's because you're here to really do a purpose and do something great in the world. And that is just such a powerful feeling to have.
Oh, absolutely. I think that that's exactly what is tied in with being your authentic self. I think that when you accept who you are, when you tap into your why, how Simon Sinek talks about finding your why. What is the why behind everything that you do? When you know why you're doing what you're doing and you remember that each day, that provides us fuel like no other. And as soon as you start honoring what your heart desires and you're in service and you're showing up as vulnerable as you're comfortable, I think that people can see that. And that's what people want, right? In today's world, when there's so much clutter around showing up as in a certain way with filters that you can apply on Instagram, and, you can put up a great pic, but people don't know what's going on behind that pic. All of that, I feel like people can relate to people who are being real, who basically come on camera or get on a podcast or write a blog and really be real with them. That, look, things are not easy. Here's how I did it, and hope you find some inspiration. And I think that's essentially where I believe the world is going, about being more real in the truest sense.
I completely agree. And I really love this shift that we're in as a collective, it seems, because people are valuing authenticity way more. And as you said, there's so much clutter. There's so many people on Instagram who are almost like, cookie cutter Karens, they're all posting the same things, same types of pictures, same clothes, same hair, same outfit. And people just are tired of it. I want to see who you are. I want to see your heart. I want to really understand and get to know you as a person, because that's what people really connect with. And I love how earlier you were saying, as an introvert, you're strengths really are in connections, even though it might not seem like it when you're in a big crowd and you get overwhelmed. But really, like at your core, you are so good at making connections. You're so good at getting a team of people who genuinely just love you and support you and are there for you, not having, 50 friends who don't even know your name, but really having those strong knit connections is so much more valuable than having, 100 or 50 fake friends. So I really encourage, all of our listeners today to really just find out what your secret sauce is. Find out what really makes you authentic. And instead of trying to be different, instead of trying to do anything other than what really feels right for you, just leaning even more into your authenticity, because people can really feel that in your energy. And that is really what is going to attract the right people and opportunities and clients and circumstances to you, is when you're being your authentic self. So Tasneem, thank you so much once again for being here on the podcast. It has been amazing to have you. And I'm sure all of our listeners are going to love this conversation. Now, if people want to connect with you and find you on social media or on a website, where can we find you at?
Oh, Amber, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to have such a good, real conversation with you. So the way people can find me is you can go to my website. It's www.ferventliving.com. I do have a free resource for introverts out there. If you're looking for ideas to how to build your visibility, your connections, you can go to ferventliving.com/visibility. And it's just a free resource for you to access and really take value from it. I am present on Facebook. You can find my business page, Fervent Living Ltd, so limited, and would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active and provide lots of free content as well.
Awesome. And I will have all of these links in the show description as well. So for any of you listening, you can find all of those links there. And of course, if you love this episode, please feel free to reach out to us, share on social media, rate us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Embody Me podcast. I hope you enjoyed this juicy episode of the Embody Me podcast. If you love this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and share with the woman in your life who needs to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with all of our upcoming releases. I cannot wait to catch you in the next episode.